I was born to a Christian middle-class family in Damascus, Syria. I remember having a wonderful childhood. I remember going to our much smaller version of Disneyland, much smaller. I also remember celebrating our version of Halloween and also celebrating Christmas. I was very involved in my community and made great friends along the way. My life was going well. It wasn't perfect. I had my worries about the future, but I was very excited to see what fate had in store for me. I had big plans and big dreams. However, suddenly, everything changed. When I turned 19, the Syria of my childhood became an unfamiliar land, shattered by a conflict that so far has claimed the life of hundreds of thousands of people and disrupted many more. Now we have 4.8 million refugees living outside of Syria. And we have 6.6 million people left internally displaced. To understand the scale of this crisis, let's for a minute compare to the United States. Out of 320 million people, imagine if the entire population of Washington State, 7 million, had perished. Now imagine if the people of California, Illinois, and New York combined or have to become refugee and flee to other countries, unable to come back to the United States. Imagine if an additional 90 million, the entire population of the Midwest and New England, have to go relocate somewhere else, leave their homes and leave their cities. So, what was happening in Syria wasn't just something that I saw in the news. It was something that deeply touched me on the personal level. It made me contemplate the meaning of life and the value of living it. And I'm here today in front of you to share with you 3 stories. First, my story in Syria. And second, the story of millions of refugees who are left behind, hopeless, homeless, and voiceless. And third, how a group of passionate people were able to drive change at the highest level and how you too can replicate our experience. My home in Damascus came under fire multiple times. I took these 2 pictures from my phone. First one is of the hospital that I had been born in many years ago. It got bombed. The second picture is of the building where my aunt and her family lives. It was the victim of the first bombing that hit the capital, Damascus. Just one of the thousands that followed. They were inside. I remember when we first heard the news. I remember us running to their neighborhood to see if they're still alive. I remember my mom crying and screaming and eventually fading. I remember the faces of all the people who were running around to see if their loved ones made it or not. This became the new reality, people of Syria. Fortunately, my family and I managed to survive, time after time. But this was not the case for everyone. This was not the case for all my friends. I lost many friends and many acquaintances, one after another. When I reflect back about what happened to my country, Syria, few of those friends stand out in my mind. My friend Shadi, an amazing human being, the most loving, caring individual I have ever met, he was killed by a mortar shell. My friend Muntasir from college, a hardworking, passionate young man who also was killed. And my friend Atallah, the bravest man I have ever met in my life. He died while he was trying to protect his friend, who was shot and killed. Those people I lost were people I loved, were people I cherished, and people I would sit next to on high school benches, and I would partner with for college projects. Those were people I would have dinners with, I would hang out with on weekends, but now they are gone. They are gone forever, and those people turned into pictures and turned into papers and into distant, distant memory. Yet despite all the depression and the tragedy that I went through, I count myself as one of the luckiest Syrians alive. I was one of 32 students who got the opportunity to move to the US, to transfer to Illinois Institute of Technology, as we were awarded a scholarship. Now, getting any kind of admission to the United States if you're a Syrian is almost impossible. Here in the United States, I was given the chance to live a normal life, where I have opportunities to seize and challenges to overcome like every one of you. But more importantly, I have a roof to sleep under. And I have water to drink, and I'll have electricity to use. And believe me when I tell you that this is not the case for the majority of refugees who lost everything they had ever owned. So for now, I want you to forget about me and to focus on my country, Syria, a once amazingly beautiful country and a touristic attraction that turned into ruins. I want you to focus on the people of Syria, who on a daily basis have to deal with bombardment and terrorism. Students cannot go to schools, and families have very poor access to healthcare. Some cities and some homes run for weeks without water and electricity. We say that we fight for equality, yet the human race has never been so divided and driven apart. Those same people are rejected by 53% of Americans. A recent Bloomberg poll showed that those people who lost everything are not welcomed in the United States by 53% of Americans. When did we allow fear and hatred to become mainstream? When did we become very complacent to the suffering of other human beings? So I'm standing here today for them, for the people who need us the most, and for us, for their sanity and for our sanity. I am here to urge you to do something when you see something wrong, to step out of your comfort zone and do what is right. And to do that, I will share with you our story in changing the public policy of the United States of America that dictated the number of refugees for decades. This experience made me realize that change, in fact, is possible, no matter how challenging it seems. It all started when I was visiting a friend in Salt Lake City. I went to an Apple store to have my phone fixed, and while I was waiting, I used one of their computers to browse the news. At that point, I was cautiously following the refugee crisis that bursted in Europe. But on that day, there's this piece of news that had a particular effect on me. I learned about the 72 decomposed bodies that was found piled on each other in a cargo truck of a highway in Austria. That was it for me. I was so frustrated, I was so fed up, and I wanted to do something. I was very disappointed that the United States of America, the historical leader of refugee resettlement, did nothing and said nothing about the Syrian refugee crisis. And I vowed that day to change that. There and then, at an Apple store in the middle of Salt Lake City, I decided to create this petition, asking the US government to increase the cap on Syrian refugees. The action came across as a very spontaneous one. Like, if you actually read what is written here, you will find few typos that I couldn't fix later. But although it came across as very spontaneous action, it by no means indicated a rash act. Because I felt that I'm fighting for my people, and I'm fighting for what is right, and I'm fighting for human beings who deserve a second chance in life, and I felt strong. On my way to the airport, I posted the petition everywhere on social media. And by the time that I landed in Chicago, to my surprise, I've accumulated 500 signatures. But more importantly, I had received messages from people from all over the world asking to join the movement. I'm not gonna lie, I was surprised that it has been called movement, but I was excited too. So what I did is that I created a Facebook virtual group where we assigned each other tasks like responding to media, like drafting emails, planning for meetings, and all that kind of stuff. From people from all over the world. I mean it, from Thailand, from Switzerland, from Germany, from Australia, of course, America, the Middle East, everywhere. We did everything. We did everything we could. What started off as a mere social media campaign turned into one of the most rewarding experiences in my life. Thanks to the hard work of the entire team, we were able to spread this petition across the country through means beyond the internet. I was invited to speak at events. We communicated with journalists, senators, and congressmen. And we also took it to the streets of Chicago and New York. At that point, unexpected things started to happen, and unexpected people started to reach out. My friend introduced me to the founder of Change.org, who assigned a great group of senior campaigners to help us carry this forward. We spoke to media outlets like CNN and Huffington Post. And at one point, the White House invited me to go and make the case for Syrian refugees and why the United States of America should act, and should act now. We faced many, many obstacles. We often felt that we will never achieve our goal. And we sometimes received unflattering and sometimes offensive messages from people. And then politicians started to fight us publicly, to fight the petition. And to be honest with you, I had some personal doubts about my ability to carry this forward. I have a background in finance, not in politics. What do I know about activism? Can I manage all these people? What if I fail? All these questions can paralyze a person into inaction. And now when I think about it, it's completely understandable because nearly each one of us has some level of fears when confronted with stepping out of our comfortable, normal lives. Being scared of the future and the unknown is completely understandable and part of who we are as human. But what is also part of who we are as human is our sense of morality, from which we summon our willpower and strength to do something meaningful. Not having a perfect, detailed plan at the beginning should never hold you back from working on what you believe is right. Because the unknown is full of opportunities and full of possibilities. And if we do not step out of those comfort zones, we will always be there and we will never know what we could do. To our surprise, our hard work, our passion, our heartbeat paid off when Secretary Kerry, after 2 days of the meeting in the White House, announced a substantial increase to the number of Syrian refugees who will be admitted to the United States. An additional 15,000 refugees in 2016 and 30,000 refugees in 2017. That was amazing. That was great. That was the biggest raise in 25 years. We were very excited. So now when I think about the past, if not for this group of people, those 45,000 can be sleeping in the street, dying out of starvation, sexually assaulted, deprived of education. I get very emotional now when I get the chance to talk to those refugees who get to be here. I get very emotional when I hear their stories, when I hear about their suffering and what they had to go through in order to come here. But I get mostly emotional when I hear about how excited they are and how grateful they are for being here. Knowing that I was a very, very, very little part of their incredible journey is the most rewarding feeling in the entire world. And I want you all to experience this feeling. So here's the deal. Whether you care about climate change, whether you care about immigration reforms, whether you care about inequality, whether you care about racism, anything, you should never let doubt of your abilities and skills to hold you back. Because I know that you can drive change if you set your mind to it. Passion is a very beautiful thing. But if you want to drive positive change, you have to act on it. So I will end my talk with a very little fact that I learned. There is a little activist inside every one of you that has the power to shape events, not only be passively shaped by it. My message to you is to set this activist free and let it make the world a slightly better place, one action at a time. Thank you.